The debt limit plan now being proposed by Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives includes massive spending cuts. Joining us live to discuss this and other topics, WSFA's Washington correspondent Peter Zampa. Hi, Peter.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, so the House Speaker has laid out that plan. The Republicans say they want spending cuts to go with a vote that would renew or increase the nation's debt ceiling. Tell us a little bit about their proposal.
Yeah, Mark, so this bill says $1.5 trillion debt limit increase for a year in conjunction with all those spending cuts you're talking about. Now, they're talking about gutting key parts of the Biden administration's legislative success over the last year, namely that Inflation Reduction Act. They're taking aim at some of the climate provisions in there. They're taking aim at getting rid of the student loan forgiveness program that so many folks have heard about. They're also trying to reclaim COVID spending that has gone unused. They're trying to cap spending at previous year's levels. So all of these things, a huge GOP wish list to get things started, and it is just that. It is just getting things started. It's a negotiation tactic to start with all of this leverage before they send it on to a Democratic Senate. The key here is when they are expected to vote next week, just how many Republicans they'll get on board, because we've heard some rumblings of possible no's within the conference. We'll have to see in the coming days how much vote whipping is done to make sure they're all on the same page. Otherwise, this was all for naught.
So how are the Democrats responding?
Predictably, a lot of them are saying that this is not a serious piece of legislation, that this is no way to start a negotiating process. Others, like Senator Joe Manchin, who's always been a very moderate Democrat, has applauded Kevin McCarthy for getting something down on paper, and he's urging the president, as he has been for weeks, to start negotiating with Republicans, because the more we don't negotiate on this thing, the closer we get to chaos. That being said, Democrats have been very clear about their stance from the beginning. Debt limit and budgetary items need to be separate. So it's not clear if the White House is going to sit down. Earlier today, the press secretary said they have to think about whether they want to negotiate under these conditions, because this is a serious Republican heavy package that has been proposed. And for some, it may be a non-starter across the board. So it's unclear where that negotiation or that compromise can come in with a bill like this. But something is going to have to budge, because the debt limit crisis is coming. And we're talking about global economic chaos potentially if we get to that ledge.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of voters are hoping that something bipartisan, some sort of compromise will come out of all of this. Today, the House also has passed a bill that would prohibit transgender athletes from playing on women's and girls' sports teams. What can you tell us about that proposal, and what's the likelihood of it becoming law?
So, Mark, this proposal from Republicans, this bill that passed the House of Representatives today on a party line vote, no Democrats on board, it would amend Title IX to specify that sex. So let's go back here for a second. Title IX is that historic piece of legislation that addressed sex discrimination in sports, really trying to level the playing field. So Republicans are saying that they're going to define sex in Title IX as corresponding to your reproductive system at birth, or your genetics at birth. So basically trying to make it so transgender athletes cannot play alongside females in their sports, trying to level the playing field and make sure that there's no unfairness there. However, from the perspective of Democrats, it's the exact opposite happening. They're saying that this is a discriminatory bill which goes against the entire spirit of Title IX. So from that sentence that I just said there, you can tell this bill is going nowhere. It's a symbolic gesture from Republicans to show where they stand, to show where Democrats stand. Again, no Democrats voted for this. It will die in the Senate. It will never even sniff the president's desk. And if it were to, the president has already said he would shoot that down. So it's not going to go anywhere, but it's still a symbolic day for Republicans in the House.
Well, and speaking of the president, his labor secretary pick had a confirmation hearing today, right? How do senators feel about her nomination?
Yeah, I would say, Mark, lukewarm right now. She is the deputy labor secretary, so she was the number 2 in the department before Marty Walsh left earlier this year to go to the NHL. She passed this confirmation test before, but everything changes when you're going for that top job. There's a lot more scrutiny, a lot more looking into your past, and her past includes being the labor secretary in California, where Republicans were taking aim at her track record because they say she was responsible for paying out billions and billions of dollars of COVID fraud payments that they wanted to have reclaimed. They were saying that money could have been spent elsewhere in the state of California or elsewhere in the country, and instead it went fraudulently out to bad actors. They also say she's too cozy with union bosses and wouldn't have enough backing of employers in this country. So a lot of folks taking aim on that side of the aisle. And also there's a handful of moderates on the Democratic side, and we don't know where they stand on her confirmation. So we'll learn more next week when that committee, the Senate Help Committee, goes to vote on her nomination. But right now, there's going to be a few days of folks trying to shake some leaves and figure out exactly where each lawmaker stands.
Well, we appreciate your following it all for us, Peter. You do a great job of breaking it down for our viewers. Thank you again for joining us from Washington today.
Of course, thank you.